President Trump is holding his first cabinet meeting of the new year. Let's listen in.
The numbers we've had on the economy and growth, you see them, and that's despite a Democrat shutdown. Without the shutdown, we would have picked up about 1.5 points more than already high numbers, record-setting numbers. So this has been, I think, and a lot of people say it, the most successful year of any administration in American history. First year, there's never been a first year like this, including the fact that we extinguished 8 wars, and another one we think is coming. Steve Witkoff's working very hard, and Jared and everybody else, and I think it's coming. It was just announced that the murder rate in our country is the biggest drop ever recorded. It's at the lowest level in 125 years. First in recorded history, it's the lowest in at least 125 years. That's a wonderful thing. And that crime is way down, and one of the reasons was we've taken a lot of bad people and gotten them out of our country. In some cases, they're so bad that we put them in prison because we don't want them to even take a chance of coming back in, even though our border is very secure, record-setting secure. We had 0 illegal aliens being admitted into our country for the last 8 months. That's hard for even me to believe, but the people that make up the lists are supposedly nonpartisan, but I would say they lean toward the Democrat side. And if they say that, I'm all for it. As you know, we've had a situation take place with respect to Venezuela. I want to just thank General Kane and his staff. Well, the job that they've done is incredible. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And once it did take place, I want to thank the leadership of Venezuela. We're getting along really well with them. The relationships have been very strong, very good. And they have informed me that they feel there's very good security, very strong security. We're working with the various people involved, including Chris and Doug and everybody on the oil. We have the major oil companies going to Venezuela now, scouting it out and picking their locations, and they'll be bringing back tremendous wealth for Venezuela and for the United States, and the oil companies will do fine too. Venezuela will actually make for themselves more money than they've ever made before, and that's a good thing. And the people of Venezuela were literally in the streets waving American flags. They were so happy. And the people in our country, like in the Doral section of Miami, which is considered little Venezuela, they're thrilled. And I just spoke to the president of Venezuela, informed her that we're going to be opening up all commercial airspace over Venezuela. American citizens will be very shortly able to go to Venezuela, and they'll be safe there. They'll be safe. It's under very strong control. And the people of formerly of Venezuela, some want to go back and some want to go back to visit, and they're going to be able to do that. So I've instructed Sean Duffy and everybody else concerned, including the military, that if you would, by the end of today, I'd like you to have the airspace over Venezuela. Planes can go to Venezuela opened up. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank all of the people in Venezuela for what they went through, and I want to thank the leadership for really they're doing a good job. And just as I promised, we've defeated the Biden inflation nightmare and achieved explosive new economic growth. The Atlanta Fed is predicting an astounding 5.4% GDP growth in the fourth quarter, and that's despite the fact that we had a Democrat shutdown. We would have had, that number would have been 7%, which is a number nobody's ever heard of. And we've been given great national security because of tariffs, and we've also been given unprecedented income because of tariffs. Part of the income that we gave, $12 billion, we gave to the farmers of our country. So that yesterday I was up in Iowa, and they were very happy, Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir.
They were very, very happy. They were great. So the GDP growth in the fourth quarter was great. And it's going to be, I think we're going to have an amazing and incredible year. Hopefully we won't have a shutdown. We're working on that right now. I think we're getting close. The Democrats, I don't believe, want to see it either. So we'll work in a very bipartisan way. I believe not to have a shutdown. We don't want a shutdown. And just yesterday, the S&P 500 hit 7,000 for the first time ever. There's never been any time at which it's done like that. And the other stocks also, I think it was 52 times for the Dow, had hit a record high. But the 7,000 was not a number that was even thinkable if you go back a year ago. So S&P hit 7,000 for the first time ever. The stock market has set, it's actually 53 all-time record highs since the election, adding $9 trillion in value to savings, retirement accounts, and 401ks. And I mean, everybody benefits, but we have record stock markets. Companies have never done well. And most importantly, if you think about it, after 4 years in which Biden got much less than $1 trillion of investment into our country, actually, it was taken over 11 months, even though we're 12 months. In 11 months, we've taken in more than $18 trillion. So they did less than $1 trillion, Scott, in a period of 4 years. And we've done $18 trillion in less than 1 year. So there's never been anything like that. No other country has done those numbers, by the way, in history. 10 years ago, one country did $3 trillion. No other. We did $18 trillion is being invested now. Thousands of businesses, plants, equipment all over the country are being built right now. And they're going to be opening pretty soon. And when they open, you'll see numbers like nobody's ever seen before. The economy is doing amazingly well. I wish the press would report it, but people are finding out. They're seeing it. It's coming. It's becoming pretty evident. It's hard to hide. Biden inflation, which is really stagflation, cost the typical family $34,000. Think of that, $34,000. But after 1 year, growth in real incomes is outpacing inflation by more than $3,000 under Trump. So one cost $34,000 and one made $3,000. That's a big swing. Gasoline has plunged to, think of this, over $4 a gallon, depending on where you are. In California, it's $7, $8 a gallon. While I was in Iowa, and they had $1.85, because I had it at $1.99 a gallon. And I was corrected by two farmers that said, I just bought my gasoline for $1.85. So, Chris, you have to be doing something right, you and Doug, right? But I don't want to give you too much confidence. You got to keep it going. We're drilling, I think I can say we're drilling more than at any time ever in the history. We're taking out more energy out of our land, but specifically, if you look at oil and gas, we've never been anywhere even close. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct. All-time records.
Yeah, great. It's a great job. Well, it's supply and demand. So that's going down rapidly. And, you know, when energy goes down, everything else goes down. They tried to do their thing. It was a disaster. Then they ran back very late to the Trump policy, but they didn't do the Trump policy. They cut leases. They did everything that they could do, but they lost it. And they were very high. And we're now less than $2 in many areas, $2.30 a gallon average. Grocery prices, airfares, hotels, car payments, and rent prices are coming down very fast. And you don't hear the word affordability issued by the Democrats anymore. Now they're going into other things because they're getting beaten badly on affordability. Remember that when I was elected, I came into office, I inherited a total mess, starting with eggs, which were 4 times higher than they were just a year before. And Brooke got them down very quickly before Easter. They said they wanted me to buy plastic eggs for the egg hunt, at the very famous egg hunt at the White House. Sir, would you buy plastic eggs? And we buy a lot of like 100,000 eggs. And I said, we're not going to buy plastic eggs. And by the time we had the egg hunt a few months later, we had the prices down pretty good. And now they're really low. Now they're at a very low level. So we really have, you don't hear the word affordability because we inherited very high prices and we inherited the highest inflation in 48 years. I say the history of our country. I think it sounds almost the same. Actually, I think 48 years sounds actually worse for some reason. So I'll go with the 40 because the press corrected me. I said history and they said, it's not history, it's 48 years. I said, I'll accept that. And we had the highest inflation in 48 years. We have now as you saw yesterday with the Fed, I'm not a fan of his. He said that inflation essentially is not a factor. It's really been pretty amazing. I just put out a statement about his statements. I won't repeat them here because they're too angry. And thanks to our tax cuts, millions of Americans will soon receive record-setting tax refunds. You're going to get a lot of tax refunds, with the average refund expected to be over $1,000 higher than it has been at any time. So we're going to be getting some pretty good refunds, a lot of people. If congressional Democrats had their way, Americans would right now be facing the largest tax hike ever. You know, their proposal was to raise taxes very substantially. And our proposal, which is in the great, big, beautiful New Deal, it's a New Deal in its own way. It's a Republican version of the New Deal. Right behind you is a nice picture of FDR. This is a much better deal than the FDR deal. But we have the great, big, beautiful bill, and it's given tremendous tax cuts and a lot of other things. People are now finding out how good it is, and it's just kicked in as of January 1st, by the way. So we're really starting to see it. Even though it's a month, we're really starting to see it. The U.S. economy would be cratering if they had won this election. Our country would be in very bad shape. Would be maybe not much of a country anymore. I don't think it would be a country anymore. They were doing everything wrong, but they were going to give you the largest tax hike in history, and we're giving you the largest tax cut in history in the great, big, beautiful bill. In addition, I think it's very good. I think it's very important. You have no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, and no tax on Social Security, but you also have, you're getting this is the first time this ever happened. If you buy a car, you go out and borrow money, you get an interest deduction. You take the interest rate, the interest that you're paying on the loan, you're able to deduct it for income tax purposes. So that's a first ever, and I think it's going to be great for everybody, including the car companies. I was in Detroit 3 weeks ago. I went to the Ford factory, spoke to the General Motors people. It's all the same. They're doing better than they've ever done. The factory I went to was like a World War I, earlier than World War I factory, opened up. One of the oldest buildings, but one of the biggest. And Ford was getting ready to close it a couple of years ago, and then they saw that I was doing well, and it looked like I would have a good chance of winning. And they kept it going, barely going. And last week they announced, during my visit, they announced that they're going to round the clock production. They never thought it was. I said, did you ever think? I spoke with Bill Ford and the president of Ford. They were both there, and they said, we can't even believe it. We were going to close this building 2 years ago, and now it's going round the clock. They said, we cannot. I mean, they said, we wish it was twice the size. But they're now building additional plants in the United States, as is everybody else. You have AI building, but the car companies, I love the car companies, and you have them. They're all coming back. They're coming back from Mexico. They're coming back from Canada. They're coming back from Japan. And they're coming back from Germany, all over Europe. They're coming back. They're building here because they want to avoid the tariffs. They don't want to pay the 15%, in some cases 25% tariff. Could be a lot higher than that if it wasn't working. So because of that, they're all coming back. One statistic yesterday that Scott told me is that for the first time ever, tell them about the steel in Japan, that we are now making more steel. Go ahead, please.
So yesterday they reported for the first time in 26 years, the United States of America produced more steel than Japan. Wow. And that is entirely driven by your tariffs.
Amazing.
Thank you. He obviously said that much better than I did, because I got no applause that I'm giving you home run after home run. He says one thing and everybody I should have saved that one for myself. No, but think of it. First time, and they read almost 30 years, but I guess it's 26, 27 years, that we are now producing more steel than Japan. Japan being a big steel producer. Japan and other countries really took our steel production away from us. Now, if you think of this, 3-4 years ago, the steel companies were all closing up. We worked a fantastic deal with U.S. Steel. We saved U.S. Steel. And now it's all coming about, but and that's just the beginning. There are a lot of steel plants right now being built. So that's an amazing number. Nobody would have believed that. If you would have said that 3, 4, 5 years ago, people would have said, "Yeah, it's not a true fact." But so it has to be true, because otherwise you question me on everything. I have to be extremely accurate. I don't exaggerate it. I don't want to exaggerate, because you will call me. You don't call other people, but you would call me under my most favored nation spot, which I think is the most important thing, Bobby, of all what we've done, because we're bringing drug prices down by 80, 90%, depending on the way. You could say 5, 6, 7, 800%. Depends on the way you want to calculate it, right? But let's go the old-fashioned way. But drug prices for prescription drugs will be down 80, 90%, 75%, 68%. They've only gone up for years and years and years. They've only gone up, and now we're going to have essentially the most favored nation. We're going to have the most favored price in the whole world. Whatever the lowest price in the world is, that's what we're going to pay. And I don't want to go into a big deal, but nobody else could have gotten this but this administration. I'm being very nice when I say that. The cost of prescription drugs is coming down by a number that was never even thought of. This will have a huge impact on healthcare, by the way, because obviously drugs are a big part of healthcare. And it will help repair some of the Unaffordable Care Act's damage that they've done, because the Unaffordable Care Act, which is Obamacare, it's unaffordable. It's not affordable. And it's a disaster. And hopefully we will be paying money directly to the people instead of giving the insurance companies the money. They'll go into a healthcare savings account or whatever it is. But think of it. We pay the money, billions and billions, really trillions of dollars, going to insurance companies. We want that money to go to the people. They buy their own health care. And it's so popular. The problem we have is the Democrats are owned by the insurance companies. They're literally owned lock, stock, and barrel by the insurance companies, and they hate it. But the people love it, including all Democrats. So I think we'll perhaps be successful with it. But it was an idea I had. I read the papers. And I'm reading one of the stories about the insurance companies, how much money they're making, where they received, billions and billions of dollars for this stuff from the United States of America, and their stock has gone up by 1,400%. Think of it, 1,400. One went up 1,700%. Numbers went up. If you go up 1,000%, you're doing bad in that business, right? And it's all because of the money. Not all, but mostly because of the money the United States pays to the insurance companies. They say, this is big stuff. And I asked somebody, why don't we just pay the people directly? And they said, that's a good idea. It's funny, it's a very complicated business, but actually it's not so complicated. And I went to Bobby and I went to Dr. Oz. I said, can I talk to you guys about this? Is this the kind of money the insurance companies get? Yes. Why don't we pay the people directly? And the primary answer was that the Democrats will never go along with it. But the people go along with it, because I put it out. It went viral. It went viral. Susie, I went all over the place. It became the biggest story. I just said it. And so I think we have a great situation if we can do it. But if you think most favored nation policy for drugs will bring your drug prices down at levels. So now if they're selling a pill for $10 in London and $130 in New York, the London price will go up to $20 and we'll go down to $20. So we'll go from 130 down to 20. And by the way, tariffs did it again, because the drug company said, we'll do it begrudgingly, but they were okay. But we'll do it, but no nation's going to approve it, because even if you raise the price by, like on a pill, $10 to $20, you're doubling the price of their prescription drugs. I said, no, they'll do it. And when I got them on the phone, I said, if you don't do it, we're going to charge you very substantial tariffs, more money than that's going to cost you. And they said, we'll do it. And before, I don't know that any other president even tried to do it. We can't find it. But if they did try, they wouldn't have gotten through the companies. They wouldn't have gotten through the company, and then they wouldn't have gotten through the country. I spoke with Macron. He was the first one. He was not at that time wearing sunglasses. And he said, no, Donald, I will not do this. I will not. I won't even consider. You're asking me to double the price. I said, you have no choice. You have to do it because you guys have been ripping us off. In other words, the whole world, we've been subsidizing the whole world on drug costs. That's why they were $10 and we'd be at $130. As an example, there were many examples. I could give you examples even worse. He said, no, I will not do that. And I said, yes, you will. 100% you'll do it. He said, no, I won't do that, Donald. You're asking me to double the cost of our prescription. We will not do that. I said, look, you've been ripping us off now for decades. We're not going to do it anymore. You can do it under Biden and Obama and other people. You're not going to do it under us. We won't do it. I said, well, if you don't do it, I'm going to charge you a 25% tariff on all of your wine, champagne, and everything else you sell into the United States. He said, like I said, I will do it. And that was the end of the conversation, right? That was the end of the conversation. So now we have favored nations that everybody said would be impossible to get. And I then had the same conversation with 15 other countries. Every one of them agreed. After a short conference, they all said no. And then within a matter of seconds, they said, we would be very happy to do that. Thank you for asking in such a nice way. And it's a great achievement. I think it's going to be one of the best achievements we've had in this country in a long time. So we're going to be knocking drug prices down at levels never seen before. I want to thank the drug companies because once they agreed, they really did. They felt it was very unfair. One of them told me it's actually a relief to agree because this has been just a rough thing for me, to justify. Because they couldn't justify it. I said, how come in London I can buy something for $10 and in New York I have to pay $130? And they go, well, it's research and development. I said, yeah, but you have research and development from them. Made in the same factory, made in everything. This is where my friend, who's very successful, I told you, a seriously overweight person, he takes the fat pill or the fat shot. And he was in London and he said, costs $87 there, costs $1,300 in New York. What's going on? He called me up. And, I knew that, but he put it in a very blunt way. I've known him a long time. He's a crude individual, but smart as hell, made a lot of money. But he just thought it was sort of ridiculous. He happened to be in London, and he got the shot, Ozempic, I think, or one of them. And I told him it wasn't working. For him, it didn't work. And he brought up a good point. It didn't work. I told him, he knows who I'm talking about. He's going crazy. He begs me not to mention.
He's not talking about me, ladies.
It's not our great vice president. No, but he begs me not to mention his name because he's become very famous without mentioning his name. And he is actually a very well-known business person. But he did make a point. But I knew the point very well. We were always paying far more than any other nation. We were subsidizing the world. Right now, there's no more of that. So we're going to be bringing the drug prices down at numbers never seen before. It's going to have a huge impact, positive impact on healthcare.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.